I'm Lynn Schnebly. I am the ambassador for Heaven's creating and protecting goddesses and archangels over life. I know this is hard for some of you, but considering all the other people and what they state they believe in, the embassies that I have worked with will probably tell you that is about what I am, and they have the miracles to back it up. I'm going to say this is an introduction for the school district of Palm Beach County and some of the other school districts in the state of Florida, although this is being sent to the embassies on top of that. I'm just giving a heads up. Oh, first let me say my fast prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Mother, I beg that you, and I do beg that you help me to say this in a most expeditious fashion and as professionally as I possibly can. Please help me to get out what I need to get out and to help others in this. In your holy name I pray. So what this is that I have an outstanding case with Palm Beach County School District, and it went to the EEOC. The federal government, as well as the Russians, the Canadians, and they all know that that was a case that fraud and outright lie occurred in it. They also know that my case could not have been protected because of President Obama's consent decrees. Now, what's interesting is that in the course of me having worked for Palm Beach County, I experienced a great deal of discrimination, employment discrimination, and not from my colleagues, but from administrators. It's also a problem in terms of the level of fraud, illegality, cheating, perversion going on within the school districts that, quite frankly, most of the world doesn't grasp. And this is a problem that is, I'm sure, not just located in Florida, but what Trump and others now know is that the entire Chief Inspector General and the Inspector General system is used to vet whistleblowers, and the whistleblowers are then discriminated against, and the information that we put out there is cherry-picked and actually sold elsewhere. What they also know, because they have my work, is that there is no oversight over the inspector generals. So like Trump and other people that are whistleblowers, I have gone to law enforcement, the Florida Commission on Human Relations, the EEOC. I have gone to police. I've gone all over the place. I have been allowed to be cyberstalked, cyber monitored. I've just had a man, he's on my phone. He's been in my life for a year. I knew he was sent by the Obama fraud, the British, I should say the Meghan Markle and that whole group. It's all on my phone. Let me explain the importance to the school district for a moment and why I'm here. We all know that people on the top do corrupt things. We all know that the church is full of corruption, and you're going to find with the primary archetypes and paradigms. It's as educators, you're going to understand that there's no way anyone could get this straight with the way that they have gone through and done these translations. And I'm going to show you this shortly before we get off. This is just an introduction. This is why I have various people that are interested in what I'm doing. Because education can work with functional behavioral assessments, they can work with planning, they can work with the arts, they can work with primary archetypes and paradigms, because we can get programs out into the schools. It's very important that you as a school get held accountable as a school system, because this is only going to be a plus for you. It's not going to be a minus. What seems like, oh, this is painful, what's going to come out about us, is actually going to help you. And if you play your cards right, you're going to help the entire country and the world. You can turn around and you can stop looking like cheating, maniacal people who lied to the EEOC. The fact that you lied to the EEOC means that you lied to federal investigation, and that's criminal. Aside from the fraud, the retaliation, and all the other things. My case was never going to be investigated, and they know that because of the consent decree. I will get into more of this in a moment. We as educators do examples and non-examples. And this is something that people don't understand. So what I'm bringing the school district up to, I don't know what to say, up and running with, is that the various embassies have already known that I've offered to out my records, not just my school district records, but international records that have been used with the military and all over, and things that you may not be totally aware of. And I'm willing to out those things because I didn't engage in sin in this area in order to begin to prime the pump so that we can do what Christ says, and that is we tell the truth, we repent, we make restitutions, we free up those resources so that we can move on positively. Mr. Trump and other world leaders know that we have to move into geo-regionalism. We cannot just be working within a global system. I have been advocating for the Union of North America since the late 1990s, and I had a case before the Law Society in New Brunswick. The New Brunswickers, the Francophones specifically, the Francophones and the LGBT community hid my case because it also showed not just what happened to an abused woman who was abused by people within the LGBT community and within people within the legal system, but it also showed the invalidation of the language arts assessment that was in New Brunswick, which masked the failures of the Francophone system in Canada. All of these things is going on in my records, as well as my records have been used for the times and dates of the attacks in 2003. Well, you're going to see a lot of it. So I'm just going to be a little quiet for a moment because it's overwhelming. Let's get back to why you're so important. You are supposed to be teaching character development, but you yourselves are a blow-up character. Now, I've had numerous lawyers who don't even bring them to me. No, seriously. I mean, understand that with what goes on here, if you don't step up to the bat and do the right thing, and I'm not talking about short-term legal because I'm going to put all these documents online. So what's going to happen is the Mexicans, the Russians, and the Chinese that are looking at major deals will have no problem flicking you off and letting you fall and exposing you. Nobody's going to have any problem with this. And Trump isn't going to have any problem with this because he needs this in order to help get the deals done that he needs to get done and in order to hold everybody accountable, including himself. He's willing to do that. The Russians are willing to do it. And I actually have it happening online. The people who hid that up were the Barack Obama and the LGBT community in the country. And it's a real problem because they did not like what my case was going to show. Teachers, again, are able to teach examples and non-examples. I am more primary archetype psychology, theologically centered. That's my background. I'm more into holistic health and medicine. I am unwilling to be a teacher in your school systems. You lie too much. I can't do that. I can't commit the fraud that you do. And I know you do it. And they all say you do it. Everybody knows you do it. I can't do that. Even if that was the case, and I could do that, there is this bigger picture out there that needs to occur that I've already been a part of for all these years. Now, there's a second part that goes to this, and this is examples and non-examples. We know in education that when you set up a lesson, you teach the lesson, you give the reason for it, the background information, and then you give the examples, you model the behavior, but the non-examples are also important so that we know not to go down that route. You can look at the non-examples and say, this is what happened because of our non-examples. Let me give you an example. In 2011, 2012, when I had a case before the Florida Commission on Human Relations against G4S Youth Services, which, by the way, is British, and we have more British diplomas going on at this point in Florida than any other state with Canada, New Zealand, and Australia put together, Florida has more. So the British, who would be looking for their deal, because they're falling apart with BritX, of linking up with North America, will have no problem exposing your dirty hands, because they're going to get that deal through me. The Mexicans are going to get the solar industrial site that's been proposed since 2012 that Barack Obama blocked, and it was due in part from my work. They're going to be able to set that up to help develop that whole area. There will be deals that can happen along the coast to help protect them. When I mean Haiti and Bermuda and all these areas, Mr. Trump recently had a meeting with them, and it's also telling them that this deal with Barack Obama is now over with. You're going to find out how instrumental I was in that. All right? All these people have all these things. New Zealand needs to go into Canada. They don't, this is like a 9 earthquake that's going to hit them. Australia, we're going to invite over into North America, and China is then going to take over Australia. Now you think that's odd. It's so much better than World War III. And then when the earth shifts and moves, and as things are happening, global individuals in that area that are really big can help put their arms around the area to protect the greatest number of people. And this is what we're looking at. This is how bad it is. So by you coming out and being able to formally make a mea culpa like that, this is very important. When G4S took over my system, and by the way, you have no privacy, they're on everything. When you took over, when G4S took over my life in 2012 as a whistleblower, they also moved with me in every place I went. And so as I put this introduction out to you in letter form, and then put that case in, you're going to say, oh, that's beyond her statute of limitations. Not when there's been crime that has prevented me from getting there. Not when there's been a consent decree that's prevented me to getting there. Not when they've broken in and taken things from me. And by the way, the federal government and they already know about this. So this is a no-brainer. And when you see the things that I have online in a moment, you're going to see this isn't funny. Non-examples are very important. What I'm doing, working, because I've been called by God to do that, is working with intergenerational and transgenerational healing, which means that I can go back at this time and work with karma. Many of you are saying, what is she saying? These other people know that this is my job. They already know this. I'm now introducing myself to you. What this means is that in the case of my family, where there's been sexual abuse in my family, and they have allowed for incest and all those other things, and incest occurred with my great-grandfather, who did it to his relatives. When the women in my family covered this all up, I'm going to out this. As we begin to out these things and talk about how this affected our families, as I talk about the role of pornography in our family and how it helped lead to 2 abortions, both myself and for my sister, and how it helped to lead to her becoming bulimic and trying to commit suicide, as we talk about all these things, we begin to free up our dirty hands. So what I made clear to the embassies, and what they all understand is the case, is that in order to free up the resources, we have to stop going in the wrong direction. Every time you have a primary archetype and paradigm that goes in the wrong direction, you use a lot of energy trying to clean it up and just get around what's happening. In fact, you find you can't get around what's happening because your primary archetypes and paradigms are wrong. Part of the problem we have with today is we feel, okay, well, even if our primary archetypes and paradigms are wrong, nobody's going to hold us accountable. Well, this is where the embassies already understand that the hurricanes that hit Florida in 2017 and the ones that hit 2018 was God waving his hand saying, you're accountable. And you're going to see this. This is when I realized that Barack Obama was in charge. Oh, let me backtrack. In 2016, when I knew Barack Obama had set up Hillary Clinton to fall and that Hillary Clinton needed to be impeached. Me, who grew up as a feminist, had cried and cried and cried. I've been cyber-stalked and cyber-monitored. I've gone to the FBI. I've gone all over the place trying to protect people. You're going to see I have this all online. I took my records after trying to contact the Democrats and letting them know they wouldn't do anything. Of course not, because the Democrats are covering the whole thing up. I took my records, and you're talking about a woman who went to Wells College. I graduated from Seneca Falls, New York. I did all these things. I grew up doing women's studies. I went to the National Organization, Republican Organization in West Palm Beach on October the 27th, 2016. And I brought my records, including all the military things and everything that Barack Obama had gotten on his desk. And I said, I know Hillary Clinton's email had to have gotten some of this information. I know she is responsible for much of what's happened in Syria and elsewhere, and I know so is Barack Obama. I know Meghan Markle. I mean, I know I didn't know about Meghan Markle then. I know Hillary Clinton is being set up to be impeached, and I'm crying. And I said, these are my records. And the woman in charge at the National in West Palm Beach looked at me and she said, this needs to go into a vault. And I said, I understand this, but I am here if you need me. Now remember, I'm always monitored. The next day, Mr. Comey came out and said Hillary Clinton would still be under investigation. And that is what turned the election. In 2018, I knew that Barack Obama was still after me with his group. I had been attacked several times. Nobody will investigate him. I have no privacy. You're going to see this at some point soon. So what happened is that when the pipe bombs went out, I said, oh God, that's Barack Obama. He's throwing off the election because of what happened the last time. I see them doing that because they've already been coming after me. So I went to the Republican office in Delray Beach, one of the people running there, and I said, this is what's going on. And he said, yeah, I'm seeing it too. And I said, they set them up. They set them up via email, via text messaging, so that the people that are actually going to commit the crimes, many times they don't even know they're being set up to do it because they're being supported. And then as soon as the event occurs, they begin pulling the email and everything out, and they retroact things in because they've tried doing it with me. A few, I called the Democrats. Wessler's, the lady, the Democrat, the one who was head down in Broward, I spoke with the person there. I said, this is a setup. And I said, Barack Obama set up the fall because he was going to take Meghan Markle, and he set up the leaks for the Clinton email. Laura, all right, Latham. Laura Latham. As soon as I identified Laura Latham and Barack Obama with the burning towers in London on his birthday, 2 years in a row, fired Trump, and the Tree of Life, the massacre for the Tree of Life, because coming from Ephesus, that's exactly what we're offering, the Tree of Life. And Barack Obama had that person massacred. And then when I said to God right afterwards, because I'm monitored, I said, Lord, you've got to hit them, and you've got to hit them hard, and you have to identify them. Right after that, the plane went down for the Lion of Indonesia. And I thought, the 737, and I thought, that dropped just like I did in church 3 weeks ago, and that was because of sin. And that was the whole LBGT community thing that happened with me in church. Right after that, you got hit with Michael. That's a different story. Right after that, when that plane dropped, it identified what was going on with Barack Obama. It was the Lion of Judah. I mean, it was the Lion of Judah movement that I already knew, but it was Indonesia Lion. And that's when everybody began to look back into his records in terms of not having been adopted by his stepfather from his mother and still being an Indonesian citizen. Now get this. On March the 12th, no, I'm going to go to Alan because Alan was the last one they sent them. So let me pull it up. On the 9th of March, let me read what I said. On the 9th of March, here we go. Because they went down on the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. On March the 9th, I went out to dinner with Alan. His name is Alan. I'm going to show you this, and I have it online. All right. This was a setup. This was the Obama group that sent Alan out. I told Alan about what was going on with the Lion of Judah, Barack Obama, how the plane went down, and I said, hit him, Lord, hit him. Hours later, the plane went down from Ethiopia to Kenya. And that's when I saw Boeing was out of Chicago. And at that point, I had just sent a letter out to the embassies on February the 5th. So when you see Pelosi go like this to Trump, it's because she got the information. They all got the information. The Russians got it. The Mexicans got it. The Germans had gotten it. I mean, the Germans ended up getting it. New Zealand got it. The Canadians got it. All that stuff came out to them stating all these hits that were happening and who was doing it. I'm prophetic. That's all here. So what I said to him on this day, I just read about the Ethiopian. Here we go. Here is the March the 11th. I mean, here it is, the 10th. And I'm just telling him what I just did. All right, here we go, because I'll read it. I just read about the Ethiopian plane that went down heading to Kenya, the same type of plane as the Lion of Indonesia. I told you, Alan, Obama, Lion of Judah movement, Black liberation theology. He was behind those June 14th, 2017, 2018 fires in England, Scotland, that Rachel M. Markle capitalized on. He also did the Manchester and Orlando gay club massacres. No, it's time for me to come out as I've already prepared for a few embassies. All right, now we go on to a next section. Alan, did you see the option to the wall that was put up on the internet March 5 and 6? It was a renewable energy producing educational, industrial, water desalination zone for both countries, a venture the U.S. would put together with Mexico. They used some of my recommendations that I sent to the Canadians in 2003. I went online last month, and let's see if I can help on this. We are not subsidizing Africa or the Obama Commonwealth. I forgot to say something the other day when I reported the crash of Ethiopia plane. The night before, I just explained to you what had happened before the Ethiopian plane went down. I'd linked the pipe bombs and the massacre of the Tree of Life to Obama and group, which included the Ethiopian crown prince living in the U.S., the Lion of Judah movement, the June 2014, the June 14, 2017, 18, that's Donald Trump's birthday. It's Fire Trump. And I told you that right after the Tree of Life massacre, which was The process I was offering, I told God, heaven, that Obama and group must be hit hard and identified. The Indonesian lion went down. This exposed Obama's actual citizenship at the time in his presidential race, Indonesia, Kenya. And after I told you this story, showing you the online, I exclaimed that I told God, heaven, that they needed to hit them, Obama and the group behind the terrorism, and hit them hard. 7 hours later, the Ethiopian plane heading to Kenya went down. Now I am praying to God that Meghan Markle's team is exposed. Her fillers and makeup false baby bump are exposed publicly, and visible shiftings, meltings, and pumping frangs and silicone of her theatrical applications. Let's see how she hides. The next day she started hiding. Okay. Alan, I just found out Boeing's headquarters is there. Okay. He tells me that this is a commercial indicator. I'm just letting you know because all those hurricanes were also, you also got punished. Now here's the bottom line, because I'm going to, shortly, begin to go into links, but I don't want to do this here because I'm at a library and I can't just do everything in a library. I'm homeless. I'm going to end with this, Palm Beach County and embassies. I'm homeless. I'm sleeping in my car. I've been holding on to all these documents. I'm in 2 storage units and I'm homeless. Every place I've gone to, I've been tracked, I've been harassed, they've been on the phone, I've had this, I've had that. And Trump knows that I have these things that need to come out, but he also knows that we have to keep the masses in line. So when I come to the school district, I'm looking at keeping the masses accountable. The masses were the ones who actually crucified Christ. It wasn't Pilate and it wasn't the Sanhedrin. It was the masses. And I happen to know what goes on in school districts and how everybody's pointing fingers all over the place. And I'm here pointing fingers at you. I'm pointing fingers at you. So, well, this is just a little, just a little Peyton place and you're all Harper Valley hypocrites. And this is what they need to see, because the people on top, when they begin to out what's happening so that they can begin freeing up resources and they're going to implement things. As we begin to move out of negativity, what's going to happen to all the counseling programs and all of these programs and all of those programs? Because they're all going to dry up when we don't have all these drug addicts and all these other things going on. Mr. Trump would like to be able to offer a more universal health care system so that we can help meld the continent and look after everybody. But what we cannot be doing is subsidize people for doing the wrong thing. And at some point, you allow people who would naturally die to die. We don't keep holding on people at both ends and we know this as school districts because we've worked with kids, and I know we've all worked with kids, that we say to ourselves, the Lord is more merciful than this, and there's another life for them. And there is. And we look at people that are the elderly. My father's medical is going into like 1.5 million people. We've got all these people going on. They're driving up the cost of health care. They're making it impossible. And I'm going to tell you, he chose to overeat and be a diabetic and do all these things all of his life, and he tells himself he's entitled to all of these things. These are all things the education system needs to be a part of. We need to be a part of these things. And so I have these programs that are there. I have all kinds of things that are here. This is only an introduction that I'm giving to the Law Society. I'm going to let the people in Mexico and the Chinese and all of that know what's going on. This is going to be sent to them as well. And because I have no privacy, and by the way, some of the records that proved that you had kids urinating out of the back of the portable and I put their names on it, G4S removed that right off my server, but I have a copy of it. All that's going up online. When you ask them to take things off my server because they're there, you lose. The problem isn't the kids. The problem is you. It's that simple. You're going to lose with this one. Now, how are you going to win? You're going to win by owning up. And you're going to pay me. I'm not going to work for you. I will advise you, but I've got other things to go on and do. I'm going to tell you what I'm worth. Cyber stalking, cyber monitoring, you're all part of that. You're part of a cover-up that went into a war. I mean, we've got big problems going on with you because I told Butch Mooney about that war coming up. You're part of this whole cover-up. I mean, this is really serious, Palm Beach County. And you've got lawyers that are lying at the EEOC. Wow. Okay, and if anything happens to me, believe you me, the Mexicans, the Chinese, the British will have no problem splatting you. And neither will God. As soon as I saw, Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle has a false pregnancy. She's got all kinds of things going on. And I'm going to be very honest. The LBGT community is pushing this whole thing. Her lump is up, her lump is down, her lump is here, her lump is that. Now we have another problem. The Israeli is busy having their third temple because they're setting up for World War III. Well, that's not good either. I have England falling apart. The Chinese need to be someplace. We have the possibility of people going after Trump. And I forgot to mention, 2011, there were major earthquakes that rocked the earth. And this began with Christchurch, when I went to Christchurch in an email. So you're going to see that. I'm going to show you how that works. That's what we call in numerology a 4-year. 2020 is another 4-year. We have had all this time to get it right, to set up the continent, to get things in place, to help look after people when this time happens. Instead, you've been lying, scheming, and conniving, and education has never been worse and more corrupt. Wow. And I kept my hands clean. But I have my own little sins that I will put out there to help prime the pump, and I have some karmic sins that we're going to be discussing. And those karmic sins are very important because it helps to free the hands up, way up on top, and allow them to come out and be more accountable. All right? You're going to find that things in the Bible are far more feminist than you thought, and it's in the Old Testament. It gets really interesting. And it points its hands to here. It points its hands into Nostradamus. And I'm going to be quiet right now because I need to get going. I'm homeless. In a month's time, I need to be out of that unit. Period. They don't want me there anymore. I haven't done anything because I slept some nights there. They don't want me there anymore. I don't have any place to live. Now, will you say to yourself, why are you homeless? Because I can't keep a job. I can't be hired properly. I can't be hired properly because of your behaviors. I can't be hired properly because G4S went in and hacked on all my phones, shutting them down, telling me that they were actually going to wreck it. And I have all the email printed out so that you can see it. Wreck phone, do this, do that. They shut it down. I couldn't even be an insurance agent. I didn't have any confidentiality. They've removed me from my friends. I have not seen my son in 17 years. So when I tell you you're going to take a tough road and it's going to be hard, at least you will have far more than I will, but you're going to lose here. You're going to lose, but you're going to keep your soul. Because the only way you're going to get into heaven is by telling the truth. You're not going any other way. And it's that simple. And the embassies know this about me. So we're not playing. I'm just beginning to let you know, and I'm going to send you some emails. The embassies are going to get it CC'd. Okay. I haven't seen my son in 17 years. I live in poverty. You're part of the reason why I'm doing this. You're the illegal parties, not me. All right? And I'm the one that with all this information that other people need. So the next email, the next, I should say, video will be going into some of that documentation. Namaste. And you're going to see what's gone out to the embassies. And you're going to see what some of this hacking looks like. And you're going to see those students that had to start urinating out of the back of the portable. And instead of getting a mediation group so that the district could begin to really vet problems and listen to them, that has nothing to do with you, an open mediation group that then could be picked up and linked across the state so that we could begin to get a real handle on what's going on. You got you got an inspector general. And the whole inspector general program in Florida is so corrupt. Interesting. You've got to see that inspector general's report. This isn't going to exist anymore. Chinese, the Russians are going to love it. Yeah. The consent decree is no longer there. No. You can be investigated. All your special interest groups can go up on charges now. And given that this is crime, lying before to a federal investigation, and given that I have been held up from being investigated, that statute of limitation is ticking. And the embassies are going to love this. So I'm expecting that you take the higher road, because I go to the Chinese communities now. I go to the Mexicans. I go to the Russians. I out everything. We're not playing. 2020 is coming, and I have no idea what's going to hit us, and neither do they. And they know it. It could be. The Russians have already reported that they are 600 miles closer to the polar cap, but we have not moved our south pole. And I already told them the poles were going to shift in 2001. Not that they were going to shift, but that's going to happen. We have so many things that need to happen between now and then. It's not funny. We've got to get ourselves in place, and we're not going to do it with the masses behaving like you. Okay. Bye. Oh, is this how we turn off?